Manchester United had to really grind out a result at the City Ground, pulling themselves back from a 2-1 deficit to draw 2-2 with Dyche and Nottingham Forest. Although they couldn't manage to win a fourth game in a row, United are still unbeaten in their last 4 Premier League matches and showed good resolve to get back into this match after initially taking the lead. Here's everything we learned following a 2-2 draw away at Nottingham Forest. First things first, I have to give credit where credit is due and give my utmost respect to Dyche and Nottingham Forest. It's been a tough start to the season for Forest. Their owner has put the club in all terms of turmoil. He's put them in such ridiculous controversy. They've already gone through 2 managers. So for the club, the team, the players, and Dyche to come and play the way they did against United, I have to give them credit. They didn't sit back. They didn't rest on their laurels. They've had a tough start to the season, as I've mentioned. So in a game like this, you would have expected them to sit back, drop off, allow United to dictate. They came out and they pressed. They were hungry. They were energetic, especially in the second half. So I have to give my kudos to them. I actually thought the first half was fairly even, given the fact that it was very, very much based on transitions. Manchester United was able to create some lovely passages of play, get in behind, get some opportunities at goal. Same as Forest. I think we did a good job of ushering them to very limited chances in the first half. I wish we would have taken more of our opportunities and chances, but thankfully Casemiro was the decider in the first half. He was more clinical. And I think in the first half, that was kind of what it was for United. We were able to shield off the advances of Nottingham Forest. We were able to make life a little bit difficult for them. They put us in a couple of hairy situations, but we were able to withstand that storm and to get that goal going into halftime, gave the team a boost, gave them the advantage. So I thought they were going to capitalize on that. But in the second half, within 5 minutes, all of that hard work, the advantage that they had built, had been completely neutralized. In fact, it was completely nullified because Nottingham Forest was able to come back and take the lead against us. But still, it showed that United's biggest weakness is still rearing its ugly head. Our players just lack concentration. They lack the correct mentality to approach certain situations. There was no reason for us to concede 2 goals of similar fashion in 2 minutes. There's just no reason. After the first goal, okay, you can be shell-shocked, but how do you respond to that? How do you go ahead and say, okay, we've conceded, let's continue to play the way we were playing? No, instead they kind of went back into their shell, reverted back to old habits, and that was a problem. That put us 2-1 down when we had a good advantage going into halftime. So for the 2 Forest goals, I really wanted to quickly analyze how we set up defensively going into Forest scoring those goals. For the first one, I know everybody is talking about Amad Diallo and his physicality, and how he was just brushed aside by Morgan Gibbs-White. It actually reminds me a lot of the first goal that Newcastle scored against Liverpool to get the game back to 2-2 before Liverpool obviously went and scored that late winner. Same situation with Milos Kerkez. He was out-muscled, out-bodied. He just had no answer to Bruno Guimaraes coming in and scoring that header. Similar situation here where Amad Diallo had no chance to even try and put off Morgan Gibbs-White from getting his head on the ball. And that was a fantastic header, don't get me wrong. But if we go back and we look at the situation from a whole, it's disappointing because we lack basic fundamentals here. We should always be looking to stop the crosser. There's no reason why the crosser should be given this much time to put the ball into the box. Nevertheless, there's no reason why Manchester United couldn't have been better set up defensively in this situation. We have more players in our box, yet they outnumber us at the back post, meaning although we have an advantage of players in our own defensive box, we're still outnumbered in our box. There's no reason for this. To put these players in this position where De Ligt, Amad, Euro are basically outnumbered 4v3 at the back post means that we were always likely to concede a goal from this situation. It's again the fundamentals where the players are caught ball watching. There's no awareness. There's no communication. Somebody should be shouting. Somebody should be saying something about this situation. They should see this numerical disadvantage ahead of time and try to combat that. Instead, we've been put in a situation where Amad Diallo has been exposed individually. And Morgan Gibbs-White, all he has to do is get himself in a position where he can hold off Amad, and he does the rest. He's a professional footballer of top quality, and that header was top quality. Now again, for the second goal, it's a similar situation. Why does the crosser have so much time to put the ball into the box? These are basics. This is the basic. When you're learning how to play the sport defensively, you're on the defensive side of the game, they always tell you to close down the man who's crossing it in. You never want to give the opposition a free rein to just cross the ball into your box and put you under pressure. But for some reason, we've allowed them to do this. And I feel like this has been a feature of United this season. We're just allowing teams to do things that normally they wouldn't allow us to do, which is frustrating. And as a result, we concede a goal. But when I look at this and I dissect this further, a lot of people are pinpointing the blame on Dalot. Now, I don't think it's fair necessarily to pinpoint everything on Dalot because, like I said, somebody should have marked the crosser. Somebody should have closed down the space that he was afforded so that he couldn't get in a good cross. Even still, the cross gets deflected and it bounces up into the air. De Ligt, Lenny Yoro, and whoever was around should have done better to deal with that situation. Be more physical, be more aggressive, get to the ball first. There's no reason why I should have even gotten to the position where a lucky bounce takes it into the path of the man, the Nottingham Forest goal scorer. And Dalot is just standing there ball watching. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and absolve Dalot of all of his crimes. I'm just trying to sit here and be real and say this is a collective issue. This isn't just because Dalot decided not to pay attention for that 1 second. All of the players should have done better to mitigate the situation, but instead they invited the pressure and allowed Nottingham Forest to take the lead. Very inconvenient situation. But I did want to talk about this briefly because this kind of pinpoints and summarizes not just the game for United, but the season, Emery's tenure. Just not being able to get rid of these individual errors that put us on the back foot, that completely changed the scope of the game, because I'm not necessarily saying that we were in control of the contest going into the second half, but because of that 1-0 lead, we had more of an advantage. We basically told Nottingham Forest, you guys have to come out. You have to come out of your shell and play. But what did we do in response? We didn't actually nullify them coming out. We allowed them to do it, which is just unacceptable in my opinion. Now, although Manchester United conceded these silly goals, I think for the entirety of the game, for the most part, United did a good job of forcing Forest into taking more difficult chances, not giving them clear-cut opportunities at goal. And I think De Ligt and Luke Shaw can pat themselves on the back. There were moments in this game where they were absolutely brilliant at reading what Nottingham Forest were trying to do. They were getting into good defensive positions to stop the attacks. They had an overall solid game at the back. Same with United. I don't think United struggled too much throughout the game. I actually thought they played some lovely stuff at times, beating the press, breaking through the Nottingham Forest press. And it was surprising because a lot of pundits, a lot of commentators, analysts, content creators, they thought that Nottingham Forest were just going to sit off, give us space to progress the ball with our wide center backs. Nottingham Forest came out and pressed us like no man's business. And there were times where United weren't able to beat the press. I'm not saying that it was perfect 100% of the time, but majority of the time United was able to get around that. They were able to, use a diverse mix of actually playing on the ground. Sané Lamens was comfortable with the ball at his feet to distribute on the ground, but then to also go long and create opportunities that way. And it was an interesting situation because I really did not expect Nottingham Forest to come out like that and give us a tough time trying to press us, trying to force us into our attacking moves. I think this sequence right here shows off what I'm saying perfectly, where Manchester United did a good job of basically goading Nottingham Forest to man-mark Casemiro and De Ligt, as De Ligt will step in to kind of form that box with Casemiro, which really forced Yoro and Shaw to stretch the capabilities of what it means to be a wide center back. They were really stretching the pitch, making it wide so that we could build up. As soon as Bruno Fernandes gets on the ball, his skill and technique take over. He gets the ball through to Luke Shaw. And what I like about Bruno is that he drives into that space. He doesn't just leave it unoccupied. He realizes that the defense isn't really aware that he's the type of player with good off-the-ball movement to try and get himself into attacking positions. He gets into that position, picks out a pass, and now we've created a good opportunity where we have a numerical advantage on the right-hand side. I wish we would have done a little bit better with our final third product because we had situations like this throughout the game. It just didn't work out most of the time because our final ball wasn't good enough, or the crucial ball in the build-up wasn't good enough. And I think that was really a summary of why we weren't able to control the game more. Our passing was wayward. And this is a feature of United. Some games our passing was on point. Some games the players' chemistry is on point. And then other games, they're just not on the same wavelength. And I think this is one of those games where especially someone like Šeško in the front line just wasn't on the same wavelength with Bruno or Mbumo. There were times where I saw, a little bit of discontent with Ahmad and Yoro. There was just a lot of murmuring. It wasn't cohesive as it was against Brighton, and it wasn't cohesive as it was against Sunderland. And there wasn't as much, in a way, there wasn't as much togetherness as there was against Liverpool. Obviously, every game is different. You have to approach every game differently. I think Forest showed the physical side of it, just like Brentford, which made it a tough game. And this kind of unsettled us a little bit. I just wish the mentality was a little bit better for the players to fight through situations like this. But I think all in all, they actually showed how good they are in terms of their technicality, in terms of beating the press, in terms of creating and fashioning out chances. I think it just needs to be more refined. And Manchester United will see themselves in a position where they can take games like this and take it by the scruff of the neck and not allow teams back into it. And it makes it difficult for Man United, makes it life harder for themselves. For some reason, they love to make things much harder for themselves than it really needs to be. Now, obviously, shout out to Casemiro for scoring the first goal and Amad Diallo for getting an absolutely brilliant equalizer. I mean, what a fantastic finish that is. And that's the type of player that Amad is. He is just full of so many bags and tricks, so many surprises. Even on a day like this where he wasn't magnificent in his overall game by any stretch of the imagination, he still managed to do something magnificent like this. So kudos to Amad, kudos to Casemiro. And what about that goal line clearance from Murillo? If he doesn't clear that, we're winning this game. Amad Diallo is writing his name in the history books. He's scoring another late winner, epic late winner. It's just fine margins, and that's the Premier League. A lot of the times it's fine margins. We can't get too upset over situations like this because we did well to come back and earn a result. Sometimes this is just how it goes. And I think if we had just been a little bit more secure today in retaining possession, keeping the ball tidy, kind of forcing Nottingham Forest to play our game, we would have gotten a better result. I don't think this is necessarily a bad result. This is definitely not a momentum killer. I just think that this was another opportunity that Man United could have done better at just seeing the game out. And now the final thing I want to talk about briefly is Benjamin Šeško. His performance was not to the standard required. Now, I don't think this is a cause for concern. Players can have off days. I am not the type of guy to ever try to bash a player for having an off day. They're humans like we are. Not every day is going to bear the same results. Not every performance is going to be as good as the last. Some days you're going to be off. And I think today was one of those off days. Šeško has great off-the-ball movement. I'll show you some examples where he gets himself into great positions. It's that final ball, that final touch, that final shot that lets him down in some situations. And in this game specifically, there was one in particular where Mbeumo played a lovely ball over the top. And if Šeško's touch had even just been semi-decent, not even perfect, just semi-decent, semi-okay, he would have gotten through on goal. And knowing Šeško, the type of finisher he is, that would have been 1-0 to Manchester United. So it's situations like this and moments like this where now we have to give him encouragement. Now we have to say, okay, that wasn't a good game. You can improve on these areas. I thought his hold-up play was awful. And awful in the sense that I know how good his hold-up play can be. So it's more so constructive criticism than anything. I think Šeško has the potential to be an excellent striker for United. He's going to be able to score a lot of goals in the system. I just think when the ball falls to his feet, he has to do a little bit better at holding it up. Milinkovic was really on his back. And that's the type of pressure that he should expect. It's the Premier League. And I know he expects it, and I know he's getting used to it and adapting to it. But if he's not playing well in that position, for example, in a game like this, there's really nobody else that we can bring on in that position who's going to do better. Xerxes is the only other option at striker, but he doesn't have the pace to stretch the back line. And in situations like that, does he have the strength to actually muscle the defender off and keep the ball? I'm not sure. So to bring him into a situation like this, I don't know if it would have improved our situation. I think Šeško has to do a little bit better. I think the touch just has to improve in certain situations. And I think the final third decision-making has to improve. Like I said, his off-the-ball movement is great, but there are just times where his final decision really lets him down. I'm hoping that in the next game against Spurs, not only he, but the entire team bounces back, plays a much better, cohesive game. The understanding really should be there. And it's against a team like Spurs where we're not going to be expected to have too much of the ball. So I think it favors us in that way. All in all, guys, the result isn't that bad. Looking at it from face value, you'll say, okay, we're playing a team who's in the relegation zone. They haven't had the best of starts to the season. We should be capitalizing on this. But look, for me, this is progress. United is progressing, getting better in certain situations. This is the type of game where we would have lost 3 or 4-1 last season by making more individual errors. I think we did a good enough job to come back and respond to the errors that we made and the position we put ourselves in. But we really need to stop putting ourselves in this position in the first place. I think against Spurs, we have to be perfect defensively. And I'm not saying perfect that the players have to do everything perfectly. I just think the mentality has to be of one where we have to say, okay, we have to be quite literally perfect in the way we approach this. We can't have similar situations and similar individual errors that we did against Nottingham Forest happen against Spurs, and I think Ruben Amorim will obviously address that to his boys. As always, guys, thanks for watching the video. I just wanted to share a couple of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think of the result? Are you happy? Are you upset? And what are you looking forward to for the next game against Spurs next weekend? As always, guys, it's been a pleasure. I'll talk to you soon. God bless. Peace.